Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you might already know that this is a video in my new series in which I am trying to explain or show how I've decided to associate things like Kabbalah and astrology to the Tarot. And I'm diverging from the Golden Dawn associations. All of the Golden Dawn associations. Both the Harris Crowley, and the Smith-Waite, etc. And I did an introduction video about why I'm doing this and what I'm doing generally. And if you want to see that video, it's a good place to start. I'll put a card up here so that you can go hop on over and take a look at the introduction to this series. Today, we are going to be looking at the first 7 cards of the Major Arcana. And I'm going to explain a little bit about what I'm doing with the Major Arcana in general. Are you all ready for that? Well, if you are, hold your horses for just a moment, because I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for doing all of those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button, for subscribing to the channel. All of those things that you do help other people find us, and you are a blessing. And also, for those of you who comment in the comment section, I am additionally eternally grateful, because I love hearing from you. I really do. And so, friends, what we've got here is a video on the Major Arcana. And before we actually dive into the cards, I will tell you that I will have 2 sets of cards showing in the corners. One will be I'll tell you in just a moment. Okay, so first, the Major Arcana. What's different between what I am doing and the Golden Dawn? Systems. There are at least 2 that I count. There may be 3. First is what is similar. Yeah, both I and the Golden Dawn systems associate astrology and the elements through Kabbalah to the cards. Particularly the Major Arcana. The Minor Arcana is mostly astrology and element. So what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah, just in case you don't know, it's, I can't say ancient, but it's a very, very old, it's antique, it's extremely antique. It's a Jewish mystical, what is it called? Mystical tradition that really only begins in the 1000s for what I can tell, the 10th century, I should say. And it is a way for Jewish practitioners originally, and then into other aspects of Islamic and Christian culture, for the mystics to contemplate and express and calculate how the divine presence manifests itself into the material world. And later on, the Kabbalah develops something called the Tree of Life. That's not an original development in Kabbalah. It comes a little later, but it does come. And from that step, we have the associations of tarot cards to the Tree of Life, to Kabbalistic theory and symbol and mysticism. So when we associate the Kabbalah to the Tarot, we're associating generally through Hebrew letters. And the Hebrew letters, the Hebrew system is called Aleph Bet, similar to alphabet, but in Hebrew it's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Delta, etc. Yes? Something to remember is that the alphabet, the Aleph Bet of Hebrew, is associated to the bars or the arms on the tree of life that connect the circles, which are called Sephirah. Yes? So there are 3 mother letters, and those are horizontal bars, and there are 7 double letters, and there are 12 single letters, and those are all arranged on the tree of life. So once you associate a card to a letter, it then associates to a placement on the tree of life. Does that make sense? So we're all doing that. What are the differences? So the Golden Dawn decided to add the number 0 to the Fool. Just in case you did not know that, yes, the Golden Dawn added that number. Well, okay, so full disclosure. The Golden Dawn wasn't the first to number the Fool 0, as I've discovered. Yeah? The Solabusca, from about 1491, also associated the Fool with 0. But except for the Solabusca, the other decks pre-Golden Dawn, as far as I know, no, I should say no. So Etea also gives a number to the Fool, which is 78 from my memory, but the idea of 0 and the Fool is in the Solabusca and then the Golden Dawn. And then with that, they also decided that the Fool begins the Major Arcana, which it didn't always do. And because of that, they decided to put the letter Aleph, the first Hebrew letter, onto the Fool. And then they put Bet, the second Hebrew letter, onto the Magician, card number 1. And then they put Gimel, the third Hebrew letter, onto the High Priestess, card number 2. Then they put Dalet onto the Empress, card number 3. And so on. Which is fine. I'm not saying they're wrong or they're stupid or they're anathema or they've done anything wrong, nor am I saying that anybody who follows the Golden Dawn system is either foolish, stupid, or doing something wrong either. I'm not saying any of that. I am saying that this is what they do, and I'm doing something different. Yes? So, why? Hebrew letters are also a number system. Let me repeat that. The Hebrew letters are also a numbering system. Aleph, the first letter, is also a representation for the number 1. Bet is a number for the number 2. Aleph, Bet, Gimel is number 3. Dalet is number 4. Yes? I mean, they used those letters in counting. They were also numbers. So, for me, 1, the Fool is not 0. It is an unnumbered card. Aleph is number 1, and so for me, the rightful place of Aleph is on the Magician. Bet, which is number 2, the rightful place is on card number 2, which is the High Priestess or the Papess. Yes? 3, which is Gimel, should be on the Empress. 4, which is Dalet, should be on the Emperor because Dalet represents the number 4. Does that make sense? So, that's the first thing. The next step gets us out into the bushes. Why? After you've made your decision on how you're going to associate the cards with the Hebrew letters, then you've got to decide which astrological and elemental associations each letter will have. Now, the Golden Dawn had worked out its own system. Eliphas Levi worked out his own system in a different way. For me, what I want to do is I want to go to the oldest extant associations of astrology and element. And when I say astrology here, I'm talking about the 7 celestial lights, the traditional 7 planets, which are, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, in that order. Well, not necessarily in that order all the time, but you get my meaning. Okay? So, those 7 planets, then the 12 astrological signs, which are pretty well known to everybody, and they're in the newspaper, in a lot of newspapers around the world, giving you a monthly or weekly or daily horoscope. And then the elements, fire, water, and air, not earth. Interestingly, we don't associate earth with the Hebrew letters. Earth is a manifestation from all of this, right? Does that make sense? So it's not part of the system, it's what comes out of it. It's what the machine of Kabbalah generates is earth. Yes? So, the oldest associations that I can find is from a tome called the Sepher Yetzirah, which in translation to English means the Book of Creation. Makes sense, right? That's how God, the divine, manifests into the world as earth and the world and all that it is lives on the earth, yes? The Book of Creation. Now here we hit a snag. Yeah, what is that snag? There are we do not have an original text. We cannot say this is the original text of the Sepher Yetzirah, unfortunately. We do have a plethora of recensions. There are recensions up the yin-yang. There are recensions up the wazoo. Pick your poison. There are a lot of them. And so, for me, my desire was to find the oldest, purest recension. Now, I could have chosen one of 2. I'm using the Saadian recension of the Sepher Yetzirah, which was used by, now I need to check the name here, Saadia Gaon in the 10th century, around 931. There's also a very well respected recension called the Graa recension, and both of them are respected and used by Jewish scholars, which for me is important because these are Jewish texts. I don't want to get the Christian version of the Kabbalah. I don't want to get the Muslim version of the Sepher Yetzirah. I want to go for the purest, most original, most accepted by the people who created it version of the Sepher Yetzirah. There are differences between the 2 versions I talked about. The Saadian and the Graa. So how do you choose? Some people say the Graa is older because the Graa is shorter. There are like 3 different lengths of the Sepher Yetzirah, which is also a thing that complicates things, yeah? There's a short version, there's a long version, I think there's a medium version. Just like Goldilocks. Some people say the Graa is older because it is the shortest, and they assume that the longer versions had additions that were stuck on later on. However, that's not 100% accurate or necessarily true. Also, if you look at the astrological associations in both the Graa that we have, we might not have the original Graa recension. We might have a Graa recension that has been processed by Christian and other resenders, redactors, rewriters of the Sepher Yetzirah. The planetary associations that I find in the Saadian recension seem older, seem more antique, if not ancient. And so, as difficult as it was for me to decide, because really, if you look at the Graa edition and you look at the planetary associations, especially to the 7 single letters, which is where the problem comes in, which of the 7 planets is associated with which of the 7 double letters, that's where the problem really comes in. If you look at the Graa recension, it feels very comfortable at the beginning. There's some problems towards the end, but the beginning feels very comfortable. However, like I said, the Saadian recension feels more ancient in concept, not in writing, but in concept. See, when I say ancient, I want something that is going to be around the year 0 CE or before. Anything after is more antique, especially anything after the 10th century is antique to me, not ancient. Yes? Pre-medieval, maybe. Around pre-400, I can go ancient with that. But after that, it's very antique for me. So I don't want to use that word. So I'm going with the Saadian because it seems more pure. Yeah? And then, just a moment, I'll be right back. I'm sorry, there was a knock at the door. Okay, so what are we going to do? For this video, and for the rest of them, we're going to go with the Saadian recension. Here, as we look at the Major Arcana, we're going to look at the cards and their Hebrew letter, and what astrological or elemental associations there are to the card through that letter as described by the Saadian recension. And we'll look at the astrology in a Hebrew Jewish context rather than a Christian version of astrology and see if that informs us a little bit more. Because we are using the Hebrew letters, we're using a Hebrew text to make the associations, trying to find more Hebrew Jewish astrological significance seems more appropriate to me. Does that make sense? And we'll also look at runes. Yeah, see if the runes from the Elder Futhark will help us understand the cards in a different way. Yes? I will show you 2 cards up here. One will be the Smith-Waite deck. I'm going to be photographing my copy of the C.S.Tarot, the Conrad Stein Tarot, for the RWS version. And I will be using the Jean Noblet Tarot de Marseille, which was now the original, was produced in 1650. Mine is a much more recent copy. My copy was the one created by Jean-Claude Flournoy. So I'll have those up in the corners. As we look at the cards, you can have the images. I'll talk about them. Hopefully, we will all be happy. Okay, so let's see how this all works. And again, for this video, we're going to be focusing on cards number 1 through 7, the Magician through the Chariot. And try not to freak out. You might freak out, especially when we get to the High Priestess. But let's look at what we have. We're going to start with the Magician. And here they are, both of them. Now, the Magician, for me, is Aleph. Yes, the first letter. Also number 1 for the Magician. So that means that the Magician is associated with the element of air, which makes absolute sense to me. Much more sense to me than the air being associated with the Fool. Why? Because air is the breath, it is the word, it is creation. Yes? The divine spoke the universe into creation. In the beginning was the word, air, right? Magician, flowing, speaking things into creation through the 4 elements. Now, in Hebrew astrology, ruach, the breath is ruach, by the way, is wind, breath, or spirit. It's spirit moving into manifestation. No brainer for me, that's the Magician. Yeah? It's invisible, it's powerful, and it has a life-giving force. Different from the Empress, but it has a life-giving force. And if you look at the Magician from the RWS, you see all of that life around the figure of the Magician, all those flowers and plants, right? It's the active creative power of God in the world. It gives life to humanity and the animals. ruach, breath, air. Air is associated with the intellect, knowledge, clarity, and communication. All of those airy, magician-like things to me. There's a connection to higher guidance with the air. As above, so below. Yes? There's an uncontrollable force whose effects are felt even if its source is unseen. Yeah? This force, even though we can't see it, we feel its power. We feel its action in the world. Very magician-like things to me. Also, there's a mysterious freedom of the divine spirit, which feels very magically like... Now, I hear some of you saying, well, that's the Fool. Mysterious, free, but let's hold off on that, because the Fool can be associated with another element, which we will see later, which might be even more appropriate. We'll see that in the third video on the Major Arcana. Okay, so just let yourself rest into this idea that maybe the magician can be air. Now, the Hebrew letter Aleph also has symbology associated with it. For example, the ox, which is strength, or leadership. Seems a little bit more like a magician than the Fool to me, but okay. There's a oneness, card 1, the magician. There's unity. There's a connection with the root for master to the letter Aleph. Yeah, mastery, the magician. Which is different from, okay, so you might be thinking the batelier. That's not very masterful. This magician, or this batelier, whichever side I put him on, is a trickster. It's different. But what if we could also add this layer to the Tarot de Marseille as well? It might add a little more richness to our readings. There's a God-man unity with Aleph. There's the bull for strength, which I think I already mentioned. And this might be also a pre-monotheistic bull indicated by the Hebrew letter Aleph. Yeah? Which is interesting. Hold on to that idea when we get to the rune. And the idea of Aleph being the divine source. Yeah? Potential. And interestingly, humility. So there's all of this power, but it's set in a context of humility, which feels very magician-like to me. Now, when we look at the rune, very interestingly, the first rune of the Elder Futhark, F, is Fehu. And Fehu is the rune for cattle. Remember when I said bull? Pre-monotheistic bull? Cattle. Now, this is cattle, livestock, in the sense of wealth for Fehu. It's not the wild ox, it's the domesticated ox. It's something that will require maintenance to sustain this domesticated beast. A little bit magician-like, maybe. The work of a magician. There's energy, there's fertility, there's hope, magician-like qualities to me. There's abundance and success, all very magician-like to me. So, for me, all of these things really feel magician. Does any of that resonate with you? I hope it does, because I'm about to throw you a curveball. Card number 2, the High Priestess. Now, here is where you might decide to turn off your video. Yeah? Why? So, the High Priestess, card number 2. Excuse me, I need to get some water. Please forgive this. The High Priestess, the second letter is Bet. Now, according to the recension of the Sepher Yetzirah that I am using, Bet is associated with Saturn. Yes, that's right. I am associating the High Priestess with Saturn. Now, don't run away. Just wait. Why? Okay, so Saturn is also associated with the Sephirah, Binah. Yeah, you know the Tree of Life has 10 Sephirah. The first one is Keter, second one is Chokmah, the third one is Binah. Interesting that the second letter is associated with the third Sephirah, Binah. And Binah is the Sephirah of understanding. Yeah, first one is the crown, it's the divine source. The second one, that's a Keter Chokmah, is wisdom. The third is Binah, understanding. Understanding sounds totally high priestess, doesn't it? Now, why does Saturn fit the high priestess? Open your hearts and listen to this, please. What is Saturn? Saturn governs boundaries, right? Saturn is the outermost planet of the 7 heavenly lights. This was before we discovered Neptune and Uranus and Pluto, even though Pluto has been demoted, right? So Saturn was the outermost planet. Boundaries. After Saturn, we get into the heavenly realms. Saturn was still the physical universe, you could say. So Saturn sat at the boundary. It is the planet of boundaries, thresholds, the hidden. Now beyond Saturn is the hidden realms. In ancient thought, Saturn was the keeper of thresholds, was the guardian of mysteries. Are you starting to feel something? Yeah? The planet of initiation, the planet of discipline, secrecy, and sacred separation. Maybe what is the Hebrew word? I want to say it's the zitzi, but that might be wrong. It's this, according to some traditions, Hebrew tradition especially, it's the gap in the divine oneness of everything that the divine one, God, whatever you want to call that being, created to have space for the physical universe to manifest so that there would be separation. So this idea of Saturn being that is also part of Saturn, yes? And that's exactly the high priestess, don't you think? Right? The high priestess is the gate. And the Saadia assigns Bet to Saturn. Yes, I said that already. But literally, it means a house or a structure. Bet means house or structure. And when we look at the high priestess, even the popess a little bit, we get this idea of her being seated between maybe columns, especially in the Smith-Waite deck, at a threshold. 2 pillars in the Smith-Waite. Yeah, the threshold of a house. Maybe for the popess, sitting before the curtain entering into the house. Saturn rules the deep, the silent, the interior place. The high priestess is interiority. Even the popess is interiority. The wordless inner voice, right? That's Saturn's domain. Saturn isn't just the bad guy, right? A lot of people look at Saturn, it is the bad planet, the big bad planet, yeah? It doesn't have to be only the big bad planet. It's the dark planet. It rules the dark and the separation between dark and light. Silence, depth, withdrawal, contemplation, the inner discipline, mystery, preserved, not spoken. All very high priestess things to me. And the moon is, okay, so another association might be the moon. And the moon is intuitive, yes, but it's the intuition that reveals, right? Saturn has intuitive potential, intuition that guards, yeah? It detects threats. It's silent but informed decision-making. It doesn't explain why it helps us make the decisions, but informed by all of the unconscious information that we hold, it helps us to make a decision. Inner compass, it gives us our inner compass without explanation, but it points us in the direction we want to go. Those are Saturnian qualities. So while intuition provides us guardrails, I'm going to read this out because I wrote it separately, of inner knowing, Saturn ensures that this knowledge is applied with wisdom, with structure, and with responsibility. Wisdom, structure, responsibility, Saturn. The High Priestess does not reveal. She waits. She guards. She tests. And she initiates. All very Saturnian qualities. So, maybe the High Priestess is Saturn, associated with Binah, understanding. Now, for the Hebrew tradition, from what I've been able to uncover for myself, Saturn is the planet of the Sabbath. High Priestess, maybe Sabbath-like qualities. Saturn, Saturday, right? The holy day. It's linked to ceasing, to rest. Kind of High Priestess qualities as well. It's the planet of boundaries, initiation, discipline. I've said that, right? Responsibility. And the physical world, matter and time. That's an interesting thing to add to the High Priestess, right? The discipline of the physical world and matter and time. Bringing form and structure to abstract concepts. Think of the book in the High Priestess's lap, in both versions, yeah? The Torah or the book in the Popes. Understanding. All of those things seem very High Priestess to me. I mentioned the Hebrew letter Bet is a house and home, yes. It's also architecture. It's a universal home, being at home in the world. Creation, but especially creation through duality. And notice the two pillars in the Smith-Waite deck, Joachim and Boaz, mercy and severity, duality, male and female, duality. It's also blessings. Yeah, it's a world as a home. Now, if we look at the rune for this, this is Futhark, U. Yeah, the U is for Urus. Fehu. Ursa. Okay, my word is missing. I'm sorry. Anyways, this is the wild ox. Yeah, it's strength, it's energy, it's speed, it's courage, with understanding. Yes? So, it all sounded very High Priestess, very unpopes-like until we got to that. It's courage with understanding and determination. It's a little Saturnian, a little High Priestess to me. So, I think we strengthen the High Priestess when we associate Saturn to her, rather than the soft, mystical High Priestess. We have the strong feminine power energized by Saturn, which I think is interesting. And I think it strengthens the significance of the High Priestess in the Major Arcana, personally. Okay, so then we go with the next card, the Empress. Yes, the Empress, beautiful card, in both traditions. And the Empress is associated now to Jupiter. But Jupiter's a boy planet. Okay, Jupiter is a male god, but we're not looking at gendered planets here. We're looking at aspects, right? Jupiter is associated with Chesed, by the way, which is loving kindness. On the father pillar, it's loving kindness. What a wonderful association for the Empress, right? So, Jupiter is what kind of planet? It is abundance, Empress. It is what? Expansion, Empress. It is fortune, Empress. All of these qualities of Jupiter really ring very clearly true for the Empress for me. So, according to Hebrew astrology, the Empress is justice and righteousness, which is a little different from the way we would generally think of as an Empress in the Smith-Waite tradition. But if we look at the really regal Empress in the Tarot de Marseille tradition, that justice and righteousness would fit very well within the realm of the Empress, don't you think? Benevolence and expansion. Yes? And Chesed, for kindness or mercy, is boundlessness. Expansion, like I said. Outpouring of divine love and grace. Total Empress vibes to me. Now, the Hebrew letter is Gimel, which means camel or rope. Yeah? And if you recall the Thoth deck, that's why there is a camel on the High Priestess card for Thoth, because he associated Gimel with the High Priestess. But for me, the Gimel, Jupiter, resonates better with the Empress. So a camel, yeah? What kind of an animal is a camel? It is able to safely move over unfriendly landscapes, carrying its own water and people and packs, and is the ship of the desert, right? Gimel is also associated with Dalet, which is the next letter, which is the Hebrew letter for the weak, as in not the weak Monday through Friday, but the weak as in the opposite of strong. Which will be interesting because of what we're going to associate Dalet with in just a moment. But Gimel and Dalet are associated, yeah? It's the homonym for the word meaning to nourish until completely ripe. Empress. Generosity. Kindness. Empress, to me. Now, the rune, interestingly, is Thrizaz, which looks like a stick with a little thorn or a flag stuck in the middle of it. And it is the rune of thorns. Yeah, it's also the rune for the hammer of Thor. Power, protection, defense, and overcoming obstacles. That adds a little bit more imperial power to the Empress, I think. Don't you? So when we say that Gimel and Dalet are linked, yeah, Gimel is the one who is coming and offering help to the weak, Dalet. The Empress offers help to Dalet. Total Empress to me. Okay, so we move on to the Emperor. Who is the Emperor? Because Jupiter is associated with the Empress, Mars is associated with the Emperor. Now, you might be saying, but Smith-Waite says it's Aries. Well, guess what? Mars is domiciled in Aries anyway, so this shouldn't be too much of a leap. Okay? Okay, so Mars is associated with the Sephra of Gevra, which is, guess what? Severity. Total Emperor vibes, right? Severity. So when we look at Mars in Hebrew context, Mars is associated with, instead of war, it's associated with blood. Well, war, yes, but also blood. Yeah? Power, strength, and judgment. So instead of being the one going out there just making war and that's it, it's the blood of the people as well. It's the power of the seat of the emperor. It is the judgment of Solomon the Wise, for example. Yes? But there's also strength or judgment through the severity of Gevurah, the Sephiroth that we mentioned, associated to the emperor through the letter Dalet. So there's divine might, the right of kings, yeah, severity, and the power to set boundaries. Yes, there is a power to set boundaries with Mars, which is different from the power of boundary and organization and restriction of Saturn. There's a power to create boundaries with Mars in Hebrew traditions. Now, what is Dalet? Dalet is a door. Yes? It is the helper of the burdened. That makes the emperor seem a little nicer, doesn't it? It's an empty receptacle of divine blessing. So not only is the emperor the right to king, but also it is the vessel of receiving the blessings of the divine, and then perhaps being able to share them with the people. Openness, but also poverty, humility, and transition. So the emperor as poverty and humility is the one who receives grace and generosity from the empress. Kind of flips things a little bit on their head, right? In a nice way, I think. Now, we also have Ansus being the rune. Yeah, and Ansus kind of looks like an F pointing down, whereas Fehu looks like an F pointing up. Ansus looks like an F pointing down. And it is the rune for messages, for inspiration. Interesting. Enthusiasm, very good quality for the emperor. Visions, but also health, harmony, truth, and wisdom. Health, harmony, truth, and wisdom. Nice qualities for the emperor, right? Added on to the imperial qualities. Giving the emperor a much easier and more positive aspect, I think. Don't you? Okay, so now we're going to move into Le Pape, or the Hierophant. Now, this is an interesting card. If we think of the Harris Crowley deck, we see the Hierophant with the cows the oxen, I should say, and the elephants, and we see a little baby Horus in his chest. We see at the bottom a little Isis, seeing generations and transitions of ages. All of that is packed into the Hierophant card in this Harris Crowley deck. For me now, the Hierophant is associated with Aries. Interesting, right? Aries, which is the domicile of Mars, which we just got from the Emperor. So Mars has now moved into a zodiacal sign, you could think, of Aries with the Hierophant. It's the Emperor spiritualized, maybe, even. And so positive traits of Aries are leadership qualities, unity, kindness, and generosity. Interestingly. Now, these are not qualities in the more Christianized astrology. This is from what I've seen in Hebrew explanations of astrology. Some negative traits are excessive self-importance, yeah, like a pope sometimes, yeah, pride and tyranny. So, a pope on a bad day could be prideful, tyrannical, and excessively self-important, but a pope on a good day could be a good leader, could be unifying, could be kind and generous, right? Through Aries, the fire sign. Now, Aries as a fire sign in Hebrew astrology, is what? It's the Paschal Lamb. It's not the Christian Aries, the one who's out to go. It's different. Now, it's the Paschal Lamb. It's the lamb that is sacrificed during the original Passover, right? Which secured the freedom of the Israelites. And it's associated with the month of Nisan, which is when the sun was in the constellation of Aries, way back when. And it's the month of Passover. Aries is also the fire element of Aries. The fire element of Aries alludes to the fire of the sacrificial altar too. Very priestly, Pope, Hierophant-like actions, right? The fire of sacrifice. It's also the redemption and sacrifice story of Abraham and Isaac, where Abraham offers up his son to God, but where God provided a ram as a substitute sacrifice. God's provision and the concept of atonement are linked with Aries, and now the Hierophant. It's also leadership and new beginnings and pioneering energy. It's also qualities of Moses. Hierophant, Hierophant, Pope, Moses. Nice links, right? Through Aries. It's the tribe of Judah, if that's interesting to you, which symbolizes kingship and leadership, spiritual leadership, right? Now, the Hierophant is associated through the Sepher Yetzirah to the letter He. Think of the Tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Vav, He, the unpronounceable name of God, right? Yod and Vav are the active principles. The two He are the receptive principles. The last He is kind of a active receptive, but that's another story entirely. But look at the first He. It's the first feminine letter of the divine Tetragrammaton. So He is a window. It's also breath, which kind of links it back to the magician, which kind of gives us that magician, Hierophant, Pope connection, which is interesting. It also is the taking or giving of self. It's looking and revealing and breath. Those are all attributes of the letter He. It's revelation, Pope Hierophant qualities, creation, expression, and life force. Very good qualities, I think, for the Hierophant and the Pope. Now, if we look at the rune that could be associated with it, it would be Raido, which kind of looks like an R. And that would be a new way in life, a new perspective, which kind of reminds me of the Hierophant card in the Harris Crowley deck, by the way. It's rhythms, it's cycles, it's communication, it's reconciliation. Those things do seem to be fragrances that can waft from the Hebrew associations we had to Aries, I think. Can you feel that within yourself? Okay, now we're going on to l'amour. And let me just tell you, when I was getting ready for this video, my card from the Smith-Waite deck had disappeared for about a few minutes. Yeah, and I was a little bit scared. I thought, oh my God, of all the cards in the deck to lose, I don't want to lose the lover card or the lover's card or it's the Smith-Waite, so the lover's card. But I found it, and here it is, and here's a picture. So the lovers is now associated not with Gemini, but Taurus. And you might be thinking, what the frick? Yeah, why Taurus? How is that appropriate? Well, we're associating through the Hebrew letter Vav, which is the Yod He Vav He, which is the third letter in the Tetragrammaton, and it is the second masculine letter, the second active principle. So, I'm sorry, like I said, I need more water. Please forgive me. How does Taurus work for lovers? Now, this could be a little bit challenging, but just to let you know, when I was considering different recensions of the Sepher Yetzirah, the only real difference between the Graa version and the version I'm using was in the 7 planets, the ordering of the 7 planets. The zodiacal associations were all the same. in the older versions of the Sepher Yetzirah. So, here we have Taurus. Well, let's look at some positive aspects of Taurus in Hebrew astrology. Individuality, introspection, self-development, and truthfulness. Okay, interesting. Maybe that idea of choice, lover being choice, self-development, and truthfulness, that could be a link, kind of. Negative traits are stubbornness. Think of Taurus, yeah. Rebelliousness. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And overemphasis on individuality, which could be the lover card reversed. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So, Taurus for the Hebrews, I shouldn't be calling, as not being of Jewish descent, I should not be saying Hebrews because I'm not part of that. But from what I've been able to see of Hebrew astrology, Taurus is strength and power. Yes? It's an untamable wild ox, a mighty, untamable force. Maybe like primal love, maybe, okay? Let's keep going. It's also the coming ruler, yeah? Coming and ruling are qualities of Taurus, reminding me a lot of, okay, no, never mind, not important. Let's go on. A righteous ruler or judge who delivers his people and brings justice to the world. Starting to feel like a justice card, right? But we're keeping it here in Taurus. With the lovers. There's an earthiness and stability here. When life reaches its full bloom, when it develops, yes? A search for stability, a desire for property, land, and the agricultural cycle of tilling the earth and gathering harvest. So the lovers may be finding a home and growing and developing a homestead. Might be part of that. Yeah. There's also the divine chariot, which might be making you think, well, then it should be the chariot card, but just hold off, okay? The bull here is a powerful symbol of the Holy Land of Israel and its people yearning to work the land. A little bit different from the chariot of the chariot card, maybe. Now, to my knowledge, okay, so you might be thinking, but no, this isn't the lover's card. But to my knowledge, even in Hebrew astrology, the sign of Taurus is the domicile of Venus. And here's where we get, I think, the lover card. Yeah? Venus. The planet of relationship, of love, of sensuality. Through Taurus, as an immature, and I am thinking of Taurus as the immature domicile of Venus, as opposed to the mature domicile of Venus, which would be Libra. The immature domicile of Venus, but still sensual, loving, relationship, right? Those could work for the lovers very well, I think. Again, associated with the letter Vav, which is a masculine letter, which is a hook or a spear. In older times, it was also a tent peg. So think of the lovers finding a home, pegging down their tent. Used as something to secure something else. Thinking of a choice. We bind ourselves to each other. We secure ourselves to each other in a strong, loving bond, right? It's also connection. Linking heaven and earth. Continuation are qualities of the letter Vav in Hebrew. Those do work for me for the lover. Yeah, I need to expand my idea of lover through Taurus quite a bit, but I think it still works. Now the rune would be kanaz, which kind of looks like a greater than or less than symbol, yeah, which is the rune for enlightenment. It's the rune for visions, for revelation. Think of that angel above coming down to the couple. Yes? Inspiration and wisdom. Enthusiasm, passion, willpower and creativity, and love. So, in that diversity of associative qualities, a lot of them do ring true for me for the lover card, or the lover's card, or the l'amoureux card. Yes? Does that make sense? Okay, so this one I think is a little bit tricky, but if the next card matches nicely, then we're still okay, I think. Don't you? So, let's look at that chariot that many people might be saying, well, no, Taurus chariot, that sounds more appropriate, but. Okay, so the system I'm using, chariot is now associated with the letter Zayin. Yes? Which is associated, related to, and attached to the zodiacal sign of Gemini. Yes? So, why does that sound good? Well, look at these cards. The two, we almost always see, two beasts attached to the charioteer's cart, right? The old version, the new version. We can think of those as the twins with different minds, right? The different horses. Does that resonate at all? So what is Gemini according to Hebrew associations? Well, Gemini, it's flexibility, it's intelligence, it is communication, and adaptability. Those things sound fairly resonant with the chariot for me. In reverse, in the negative traits, I should say, we have instability, negative chariot, moodiness, and non-rootedness. That kind of works for the chariot, doesn't it? Now, if we look at Gemini more deeply in Hebrew astrology, what I've found is that Gemini is also associated to duality and unity in the Hebrew perspective. Yeah, it's the central column of the tree of life. It's the reconciliation of opposites. Charioteer, two horses. You see what I mean? It's into a unified whole. It's balances of the left severity, the right mercy. Now, the pillar of severity, the mother pillar, the pillar of mercy, the father pillar. Balancing, centering, grounding. That's Gemini for Hebrew astrology. And it creates harmony and allows the flow of life. It's also the twin tablets of Moses, yeah? The two stone tablets that the Ten Commandments were written on. It's the twin Torahs. What does that mean? The unity of the written Torah and the oral Torah together. Two horses, two sphinxes. Let's see, what else? Oh yes, it's communication and intellect, which I mentioned. A time for study and the reception of divine wisdom. Nice attribute to add to the chariot. Also, biblical twins are indicated here, yeah? Like Jacob and Esau. Yeah? The most famous biblical twins, representing the opposite temperaments and paths. It's also the twins of Perez and Zerah, the twin sons born to Judah and Tamar. And if you want to go look those up, go look those up. Okay, so let's move on to the letter itself, Zayin. It's the letter of sustenance and nourishment. but also of weapon and sword. And we think of the charioteer as maybe a warrior or a prince in his triumphal cart a little bit. Yes, so that sword weapon symbol kind of matches pretty well. It's also cutting up time. Being the seventh letter, 7 days of the week, right? Seventh year. The land lies fallow in ancient traditions. Also, 7 sets of 7 years is one cycle, and then we get the fifth, which is 49. Then we get the 50th year, which is a jubilee year of celebration, right? Freeing of slaves, and the land and people and rest. It's the letter for spiritual warfare and balance. All very wonderful, I think, charioteer associations. Now, if we add the rune in, we get Gebo, which is one of my favorite runes. I don't have it on me today. I do have a Gebo necklace. You really wanted to hear that, didn't you? Anyway, so Gebo, what is that? It looks like an X. It is gift or divine generosity. It's also partnership, 2 horses. Harmony, 2 horses. Exchange and loyalty. Wonderful things to add to the charioteer, don't you think? So that is the end of the 7 cards for this video. What do you think? Does that make sense to you? Do any of those things resonate for you? If they do, let me know in the comments below. If they do not, if you have questions, if you'd like a little more information, let me know in the comments below. If you want me to add something to the next video, let me know in the comments below as well. I'm really, the more I look at this, the more I ponder these associations that I've arranged around the letters, the cards, etc., the more satisfied I'm feeling. And particularly, and it might still irritate the crap out of you, but particularly the High Priestess. At first I balked at it. I said, no, 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 no. But now I'm totally yes. I get it now. It took me a while, but I get it. And maybe it does. Do you get it? Does it make sense to you? Are you still, no, it's got to be the moon-ing on me? Let me know. I'd like to hear from you. Or do you feel a crack opening up that, well, maybe it could be. I can kind of see that Saturnian quality to this beautiful, well-loved High Priestess Popes card? I'd love to know. So friends, here we are. I will have the next video out, which will be cards 8 through 13, right? Let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I'm sorry. 8 through 14, I can count, which would be 8 justice. Yes, we're going to go with the traditional order, 8 being justice and 14 being temperance. So stay tuned for that. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.